Okay, I think we're recording.
It's gonna be fine. It is fine.
Whoa.
Like monogamy is dead.
It's all good. Okay.
Hey.
You excited? We're recording now.
Okay, we're on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to It's All Good. We don't have Yahtzee today. She's actually quite sick. Instead, we have Joe from Clutter, Porch.
Hi, people.
So I'm going to explain what you do a little bit, but then you can just tell people.
Yeah, I feel like the email that I sent you, what I do did not make sense when I reread it.
No, it did. It did.
I'm just bad with, I feel.
I'm going to give a Sparks Notes, and then you're going to take it away. So Clutter Porch is a super cool vintage fashion store in real life. Mm-hmm. Joe travels the world, sources really sick pieces, and then she sells it to us Ontario locals. Thank God.
I feel like that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
but wait, actually, we also, I feel like I didn't put that in the email, but I think a big thing that I'm trying to do is the education behind it. Yeah,
you're a big advocate for sustainable clothing and living and
life.
Yeah.
Sustainable girly has entered the chat.
Okay, so can you quickly tell us kind of how you got started in this?
I feel like this is going to be really long.
That's okay. It doesn't have to be quick. Okay. I don't even know why I said quickly.
Yeah, I was like girl, I can talk.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel, I've known you since we were young. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this kind of, I think I've always just been, when I was growing up, I remember going over my aunt's house and they always had all their fucking lights on. And I was going around the house turning off the lights.
Oh my gosh.
I've always been, I guess, like that. And they hated having us over because my aunt was always like, why is she turning off my lights? I'd unplug toasters. I was weird like that. But I was I think I remember this was as young as I was 8 years old. I think I've always just been interested and had a care for I don't know, the environment. Yeah. But just in that sense.
Wow, my dad would have loved having you over all the time then.
Yeah.
I would get grounded for leaving my lights on.
Yeah, that for me, I was why are these people doing this? Or I read a thing, or it was even an article. I don't even know where I heard this, but it said when you're in the car and the radio is on, what powers the radio is if you turn the radio off in the car, it contributes to less something or other. Okay. And so then I would start driving when my dad was driving me places. Yeah. I'd be we have to turn the radio off. And he's like, no, we're not. What do you mean? But yeah, I guess I've always just had that kind of interest towards it. And traveling, my parents were always really big on that. My dad would always be the king of the last minute vacation deal and be wake us up 3 a.m. and be hey, we're going to the airport at 8 a.m. Get your shit together, we're leaving for a week. You always be online and hit I don't know if anybody remembers this, probably a couple people would, but when we had the home computer, it wasn't a laptop, it was in the office. Yeah. He was always on his fucking thing, going on whatever the last minute vacation deals. Yeah. So traveling I've always loved, sustainable, just that, clothing, and we grew up in a time too where it was, you remember this for sure. We went to a private school, but then dress down day. If you weren't wearing Hollister or Abercrombie, you might as well
you were done.
You're dead meat. Social suicide to the corner, to the curb. But I remember always feeling where I was and I remember my dad took me to the mall. I was sure, and he took me to the mall, and the first Hollister shirt that I was crying on the floor of the mall for.
Okay, that's terrible.
Yeah, I was
because I do remember the anxiety.
Yeah, where also. You have to look so good, but I was but I don't even like this. I knew that always that I was I don't even like this, and I think I outwardly as a person have always been just, I guess, in my personality, I've always been different. I think, and I think you can speak to that.
Yeah, you've just always had very high energy.
Yeah, people were always, I think, what's going on with this girl? Nobody really knew. It was
yeah. Well, you'll approach anybody, even the most unapproachable.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But I think that for me, so much of just growing up, and I grew up in an environment, my family was very middle class. My parents are immigrants from Poland. They came to Canada. And I grew up in a lot of time in environments where I felt I was, in a sense, on the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. And I didn't fit in with, yeah, I had to get that Hollister shirt and I had to beg my dad to get this shirt. But I was I don't even like this. I don't even want to dress like everybody else. And then I guess kind of fast forward as time goes on, I remember, you know, my mother and stuff was always going to garage sales, estate sales, to the thrift store with my aunt and stuff. But they were always looking at tchotchkes. My mother was a hoarder. She's a very sick woman, but beside the point, getting into this kind of, you know, I was always around that. And I was like really realizing where I never really felt like I had a choice in the way that I wanted to express myself, how I felt inside.
Yeah.
Because I was in an environment that was kind of catering to the Hollister and Abercrombie wearers of the world. But I was like, this so isn't me. And then I kind of discovered that there's so many other cool options to wear. And mind you, that stuff was also expensive. Like my parents weren't dropping $200 at the mall every Friday. Like that just wasn't a reality for me. And so then I was like, but I don't even want this. I started kind of going and exploring and, you know, and then I found clothing, like which was vintage clothing and stuff at the thrift store where I was like, this is actually more me. And I remember it's like a scene in a movie because I actually got expelled from our high school mentor. I got expelled in the 9th grade. So I went to Lauren Park.
I didn't know that.
Oh my God, yeah, I got expelled. So yeah, I got expelled. I went to Lauren Park, which was a public school in my area. And again, it was like, my parents were very middle class, but Lauren Park is, you know, like all my friends in high school, their first cars were like Beamers. Right. And I was walking to school.
Yeah.
So just, again, like outwardly being in an environment where I feel, you know, just I wasn't like, I guess, everybody else. And I always felt that inside. So then I guess as, you know, time goes on, I'm going to the thrift store, I'm finding all these cool things. And it was grade 10. And I remember I had a boyfriend at the time, Everett. And we went to the thrift store together, just like as a gag, like him and I. And I was like, come with me to this place. And I got the craziest outfit together. And it was like, I know that when I wear this to school, because it was not a private school, it was a public school. So you can wear whatever you want every day. And I'm going to put together the craziest outfit because now I will finally match what people outwardly see as Joe being Joe.
Right.
So I wore this. This is crazy. It was like shoulder pads, like this monster. It was nuts. This outfit, like craziest thing. And I remember it's like a film, like being filmed in my head, and I'm watching it as it's happening. And I remember walking into school and walking down the hallway. And it's like, I'm not even like turning heads. I'm literally breaking necks. Like everybody is like.
Wait, do you have a photo of this?
I wish I did.
Oh my God.
I had a picture of that outfit. But then everyone was just like, what the fuck? And it's like, you know, when you're walking through and everyone's looking, then they all start talking to each other. And I heard them saying like, what the fuck? Like, is she okay? And I'm like, but you guys were already asking if I was okay when I was wearing the fucking Hollister shirt. Like, piss off. And then I think after that was really like where I was just like, yeah, like, this is how I'm dressing and I'm expressing who I am. And, you know, but I've always too, like, you know, I think my parents also was a big thing that was taught to me as just like quality stuff, you know, like I was, and I did start picking that up when I'm like shopping these pieces, older pieces where I feel the material. It's not something that's going to like, you can't wipe your butt with it because it's going to even fall apart, these new stuff that they were making. So it kind of like went into that and everyone was still being like, okay, Joe's weird and crazy, but Joe's always been weird and crazy. It doesn't matter what she's wearing. And then, you know, I think I've just always been, I don't know, I had half a brain in my head, but I started going to the thrift store and I started finding all this cool stuff where I'm like, and I think that was like I just started, you know, that was 2010 when I really was like making a statement of like, this is how I dress, accept it or not. You didn't accept me when I dress normal, but this is it. But it was around that time that it became like Tumblr, Coachella era, like when Coachella was first starting to happen. So I started realizing, I'm like, you know what people love? People love like those like cut off denim shorts. Yeah. So I started buying a ton of those. And then I was like thinking, I was like, okay, like I want to make like a Facebook page. I'm going to start selling this on my Facebook. Then it kind of, you know, is that people were like, hey, Joe's still weird, but hey, I actually want those denim shorts because everybody on Tumblr has them and I need them. And oh my God, like that was the whole aesthetic.
This is like right when vintage clothing started to get kind of cool. Like it wasn't cool yet.
No, it wasn't. And like I even remember too, you know, I would go sneak downtown on the GO train. And in that time in my life, too, I was telling my parents I'm going to the library. I don't know how they fucking believed me. I'm like, because we grew up in the suburbs. Yeah. Train into Toronto. And I go and I walk on Queen Street. And like window shop at all these vintage stores, like Black Market, where it was in a basement. Yeah. Everything was $10. And I just always like loved that. But I didn't know that it would, you know, end up where it did for me, I guess. But yeah, so started selling on Facebook. I got together with this one girl that her and I were best friends at the time. And it's called Schmo's Clothes. Her name was Sam. My name is Joe. So we mashed it together. And then we had this whole thing and we were, you know, selling to the girls. But we ended up having a huge, massive falling out. Like she beat me up.
What?
Yeah, she beat me up. And the day after it happened, I told everybody that
this is in high school.
Yes, this was in grade 11.
Okay.
11. Huge falling out. She beat me up. I told everybody that I beat her up. It was very clear that I had beat nobody up. I was the one who had gotten beat. Okay? To the ground. I literally had to get stitches. Like, it was...
No!
Yes. Oh my God, like, in my eye. It was fucked up. Oh my God, yeah. We had, like, a full-on fist fight. And then that just, like, ended that relationship.
This is the best founder story I've ever heard.
It's kind of insane. So, anyways, as that dissolves and we are no longer friends, but I still have all this stuff and I'm still like, okay, I'll kind of go on and do my own thing. I'm still picking stuff. Like, I'm still always going there. Again, I'm not going to the mall. But time goes on, high school ends. I also too was like, I have a very, I do come from like a dysfunctional home. So I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm going to the first school that I'm applying to, and it's out east. It's out in Halifax, and I'm going as far away as possible. And I'm out, ciao, bye. I really wasn't thinking of this. Like, when I think about my life, I started selling vintage on a Facebook page in 2009, 2010. But it wasn't something that I really ever thought in the way that it would end up now. Anyhow, I go out to Halifax, and, as I'm someone who struggles with substance abuse, and I get out to Halifax, I pull up on scene. By the way, this was a time I'd broken up, or actually, he broke up with me. My high school boyfriend broke up with me. I pulled a Britney Spears, basically shaved my head, went crazy. So I pull up on the scene in Halifax after like a year of like trauma, basically. Like, grade 12 was so shit for me. So I pull up on scene in Halifax, and I got this fucked up red hair that I dyed myself, so short. I looked so bad, but I still had really good style. Like, nobody can tell me. Like, I looked physically, like, I look at photos of myself at that time, I'm like, yeah, I would totally rewear the outfit. But, like, everything else going on, like, so wrong. So wrong. I think anybody from meeting me would just be like, and I don't even want to say this about myself, but I'm just the type where people are like, would remember you. Like,
yeah, I think you're very memorable.
Yeah. So, like, I pull up to Halifax. I got all this trauma from my fucking house that I'm trying to,
yeah.
A lot of stuff going on there. A lot of stuff just, like, I've always had a lot of just, like, I guess, internal struggles. And I had gone to school for an environmental sustainability degree. Like, that's awesome. Was going for. That's what I've been interested. That's what I wanted to do. I get out there and I pack all my coolest stuff, like that I'm wearing. And what ended up happening was I got a degree in drugs and alcohol. Like, I dropped out of school very shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Partying the whole time. It was really nuts. But at the same time, I'm still going to thrift store all the time. I'm still buying all this cool stuff, wearing all this cool stuff. I looked like I was the most fucked up at the party always, but I looked the best at the party. Like, my outfit was always slaying. But I was like half dead on the couch, like puking, crying, starting fight. Like, I was crazy. Mm-hmm. But again, that comes with substance abuse. So anyways, time, and like that was like, I mean, when I was in university, I wasn't selling anything. I was just being insane. So I drop out of university. I kind of come back to Toronto. I try to go to Ryerson for like a hot 5 minutes. Doesn't work out. And in the meantime, I'm still like collecting vintage. I'm still buying vintage for myself. And then, I started working kind of like in bars and nightclubs in the restaurant industry. And everyone that I always worked with was like, dude, you got such sick style. Like, you got really cool stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then, life kind of moves on. I'm still in that industry, still collecting, still hoarding. And then I was living in Toronto at the time with my ex. And then I was like, I got to get out of here. This guy's crazy. And I was like, oh, a bunch of my friends had like cottages and stuff in Muskoka.
Right.
And I was like, I've always dreamed of working up there for a summer at the lake. Like, let's have a summer at the lake. And none of them wanted to do it. I'm like, you guys are just fucking privileged little assholes. Like, you don't want to live at your lake house all summer? Like, what's wrong with you? Okay. So anyways, I ended up getting a job through a guy that I was working with at a bar in Toronto. And he actually worked up there in the summer. And everyone's like, oh my God, we love your style. And at the time when I got hired, one of my best friends, Coach, he's the GM at the restaurant. He was like, are you going to, because I don't have a cottage. He's like, well, are you going to have staff housing at the restaurant? And I said, no, I'm going to live in my car, sir. And to see his face when I said, I'm going to live in my car, he was like, sorry, what? And I was like, yeah. So what ended up happening is I had all these clothes anyways. Everyone's always asking me. And I'd go back and forth between the city. And then I started bringing stuff up. So in the staff house, I wasn't living in the staff house. I was living in my car.
Yeah.
I had a rack of clothes that I was selling at the staff house.
Amazing.
And then, goes on. I'm trying to make this as concise, but it's a really long founder story. I got to be honest.
You know what? I'm loving it.
So, yeah, then I kind of realized that. And then what I would always do, too, is I hate the winter, so I go traveling in the winter. And then, so we fast forward, summer ends. I move out to Halifax for like the fall, back with my ex again. We've broken up 50,000 times by this point. We break up again. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going traveling. I'm going to Guatemala. This is right before COVID happens. Like this was, there's a kind of like, oh, there's a virus. On the way out of Toronto airport, there's one person on my flight wearing a hazmat suit. And I'm like, that person's an idiot. I get to Guatemala, I'm living my life, living my best life, backpacking, whatever. And then the pandemic happens. I end up getting trapped in Guatemala.
Oh my God.
And it was a whole, that's another story for another day. I won't get into that. But I get trapped there and I'm really realizing where I'm like, oh my God, like I'm out of a job because I was just a bartender who bartended in the summer and traveled in the winter.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm screwed. So I was kind of sitting there and I was thinking and I was just like, what am I going to do? And anyways, I was going to stay in Guatemala, but then everyone's like, you have to come home. I lasted like a month and a half, 2 months. And I was like, okay, I got to get back. Ended up escaping Guatemala. Another story for another day. I get out of Guatemala, I come home and I'm really thinking, I'm like, what am I going to do? And I had kind of thought this thought and I'm like, oh, like I want to do like, I love silver. I love clothing. I want to have something like, I know how to do this. I know how to sell things, but it's still like a thought that's kind of like percolating, formulating, but it's not 100% there yet. So what ends up happening is I get home and, you know, I have just been broken up with my boyfriend and it's COVID, nothing's going on. I'm back in my family home, super dysfunctional, and I have all this stuff. And that's one thing about me is I've always had stuff, you know, and outwardly too, I first got sober when I was 21. Oh my God, I'm such a rambler. I first got sober at 21. And then one thing that happened when I stopped using drugs and drinking, I started shopping. And as much as I love thrifting stuff, I still was going like shopping in a bunch of places. So I've always had stuff. So when I got home, I was just confronted with like my childhood bedroom looking like you couldn't even make it up. Like it was fucked up what was in there. I was stepping over mountains and like you couldn't see my floor. You hadn't seen my floor in years. And then COVID was happening, nothing was going on, and I'm just in my childhood bedroom just like thinking about my life and thinking about my choices and like what am I doing here? How did this happen? Oh my God, freaking out. Also going through a breakup at the time, and then I was just bored in my room and I started posting pictures on my Instagram of like outfits that I'm putting together with the intention of getting my ex-boyfriend's attention. Like I looked really hot. I just got back from Guatemala. Like I was tanned. Yeah. And I'm posting all these things hopefully to get his attention, literally thirst trapping. But then people start hitting me up and they're like, Joe, is that for sale? And I'm like, yo, is it? And then I'm like, yo, it is. It's gotta be. So like, it was crazy because it's nothing that I had expected. And I had like 300 followers on my Instagram. Just people that I went to school with, people that I had traveled with, people I had worked with, all these people. And I was like, okay, June 4th, I'm doing a yard style sale. Right. And that was a time where malls were still closed. You couldn't shop. People were ordering online. Everyone hates shopping online. And it fucking blew up, dude. It was nuts. Like my parents were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, don't worry about it. And I'm like hauling stuff out there. Like I got clothes for everybody who wants clothes. I had so much stuff, just like a personal collection that I'm a collector. And you know, like my mother's a hoarder. I have some hoarding tendencies. I'm not going to sit here and lie about that.
I think we've gathered. Yeah. Did it feel good for you? Like obviously you were starting something new and it was probably exciting that you were making money off of things you already owned. But did it also feel good for you to like literally let go of physical items and just get it out of your life?
Honestly, yeah, because you know it was really crazy when I was putting stuff out and I had like an RSVP list of people who had written back to me saying, hey, I'm coming, because I had to do it like scheduled times. Right. And I remember putting stuff out and I'm like, oh my God, like one of my girlfriends is coming, and I picked a shirt up and I'm like, she's going to buy this. And she bought it. Yeah. And that to me was like, I've had this shirt and I remember the day that I had gotten that shirt. I still remember it's like a denim bowling shirt. I remember the thrift store that I got it at. I remember the day that I like had picked it up, and it'd been sitting in my closet. It's not something that I ever wore, but I picked it up. It was cool. It's vintage. I love it. And my girlfriend Lisa bought it. And that for me was kind of more than like, you know, okay, yeah, I made money off of it by selling it. It's something that's just been sitting there collecting dust realistically. Yeah. But it actually was really, to me, I'm just like, and I know when Lisa, it was the first thing she saw, she's like, oh my fucking God, I love that. And that for me was like, you know, this is something that I get to give a second chance to. Yeah. Where I think so much of my business is like, you know, all these pieces of clothing, it gets a second chance. Where a lot of it, it's looked over. And for a long time, you know, like people were looking at me so weird and judging me and be like, Joe doesn't know, ew, like what is she wearing? But it's so funny how that ends up turning around.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people who were kind of assholes to me are buying stuff for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of love that.
So you're in COVID, you're selling clothes literally on your porch?
Literally correct, yeah. And then I basically at that, so like I said, I was expecting to go back to my bar in Muskoka that I like was working at. And I also too was like, I'm so the type of person, and I think someone as an addict is someone who, I have a very certain way of thinking. Once I get on an idea, there is no other ideas. Okay. Yeah. So this was like, oh my God, I never made that much money in a day. Not in my entire life, in any bar gig I've ever did, no matter what, like how many hours I pulled at work. I was like, holy shit. And I had the best time doing it. Like it didn't feel like work. It was like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with all my friends. People are coming over, buying shit that I love, but I know that they love it and will actually do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
So the bar that I was working at was like, then things started to open up and they're like, hey, we're opening up again, come bartend. And I'm like, you know what? No, like, and I was also scared too. Like I was like, I'm scared to go work there. Like, what about COVID? Like, it was still a little part of me was like kind of a COVID freak at first.
Yeah.
And so the bar had an open space, and a lot of people who were meant to do a pop-up at the pop-up space in the bar had dropped out because of COVID.
Okay.
And then they were like, come do it, we'll give you a discounted rate. And my good friend Coach, who's the GM, I was just like, you know what, I really owe a lot to him for kind of launching this into the next level, because then at that point I did my first week-long pop-up and it just went crazy. Like, really? From then, I was just like, I had already been like, okay, I don't want to bartend anymore. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I love to do. But having the opportunity to put my space there and have it really showed me. I was like, I already want to be here all summer and I want to fuck off in the winter. Yeah. And now I can have a way to do that. And it just went crazy. So after that, the week-long pop-up ended. I went back to Toronto. I'm doing all these markets. I'm networking. I'm meeting people, meeting new customers, just learning. And like, I'm so the type of person where I just learn as I do. Mm-hmm. Like, I just have to throw myself into something. And I'm like that. Like, for the first really like 2 years, I'd say, of Clutter Porch, it was like eat, breathe, sleep, Clutter Porch. There's nothing else. Right. There's like, I have tunnel vision and there's nothing else in front of me.
And had you already named it Clutter Porch?
No. So how it actually got named is a friend of mine, Aaron, was over one day and I had another one of the porch sales. And I was trying, because now in this day and age, I had to have an Instagram. Yeah. And I was thinking of all these stupid fucking names. Like, I was like, pink, like, whatever, wispy unicorn vintage. Like, something dumb as fuck. And my buddy Aaron is just sitting there and he's like, no, like, look at this. The porch is Clutter Porch. I didn't even come up with the name myself. It's a good name. It's such a good name. Yeah. Because it also goes beyond something where I feel anytime you try too hard at something, like, not authentically, I guess. Like, I was trying to make up a stupid name because that's what I had thought. And I was like, no. And I think what's really cool is Clutter Porch kind of transcends. It's not Clutter Porch Vintage. It's just Clutter Porch. Yeah. So it kind of makes you be like, wait, what is that? Mm-hmm. Not where now, everyone in COVID made a fucking vintage Instagram account. Yeah. And now half of them are deactivated. Yeah. So, yeah, that's how Clutter Porch was named. So I move on. I'm in Toronto doing all the things. I get asked to go back to another pop-up because another idiot dropped out. I was like, sure, no problem. 2 weeks, done. It was in August. And then, anyways, COVID's still kind of going on. And things are a little bit weird still. I mean, as everyone remembers, that time in our life was crazy. Yeah. But I had always in the back of my head been like, shit, dude. Like, I'm not staying around here for winter. I'm not having a COVID winter. No chance. And then there was then the fall kind of started coming in, and there was kind of talks about, things are going to get locked down. This, like, again, that was kind of in the back of my mind. And I was like, I ain't staying here, bro. Mm-hmm. I got to get out of here. And essentially they shut down the airport probably a week after I'd left. I had went back down to Guatemala, and I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to find shit here. And that's kind of when it turned into actually like sourcing abroad. But mind you, right. I still was doing a lot of sourcing at home. But what it ended up being, when I've done all these travels in all the countries that I've been, I've always seen these crazy piles of clothes. Yeah. Like nuts. And I'd always known they kind of existed, but just more when I kind of started when I went down there that year with the intention of like, I'm going to source here, I started finding even more of these places. Yeah. Which was just nuts. And that was kind of too, like, Clutter Porch, as much as I've always loved sustainability and stuff, Clutter Porch really didn't start with sustainability first. Yeah. It was never that, actually. It was literally cleaning out my hoard, first trapping on Instagram, not bartending anymore, and figuring it out. Mm-hmm. So then, yeah, I started kind of realizing, and then I started also going to a rag yard. So the warehouse where all these things get processed before they get shipped down to Central and South America and all other parts of the world.
Okay. So wait.
Those big warehouses.
So just for people listening that don't understand what you mean when you're sourcing abroad, Joe will travel to countries that are not
Look
as well.
Look at my Instagram.
She'll travel to countries that are
like countries where a lot of this stuff, it has been made, it's been really well marketed in a way that we are just kind of providing them with aid, but we're just providing them with garbage.
Right.
So they're sending the donations, but they still buy that. It's not that they get that stuff for free at all.
Really?
It's a business. Oh yeah, it's a business.
No way.
They're called pacas. That's what they're called. So they come from a warehouse. It's a textile recycling warehouse. They're all over Toronto. Any major cities have them. The secondhand clothing industry is a massive industry. But all this stuff gets processed here and gets shipped down there. So they buy it. It's not free.
Wait, I had this backwards in my head. I had it that like all of the videos on your account of the like pyramids of clothing.
Yeah.
I had it that they're just in the developing countries and then we buy it.
No.
But we're selling it to them.
We're selling it to them.
That's fucked up.
Oh my God, it's fucked up beyond, because the amount of stuff that it is. And it's also, again, where, the whole concept of the secondhand clothing thing. And again, when we were growing up, it's like, oh, if you shop at Goodwill, you're poor. The idea of that kind of mentality where, yes, like clothing for people who cannot afford it. Like, yes, there is a place where, there's discounted items of clothing. But the whole concept of it getting shipped to Central and South America and, again, other parts of the world is not that it's aid. It's a massive industry. These
it's just locals buy
it's exactly, but it's portrayed as like, anytime you've ever thought of it, oh, give the poor people your clothes. The poor people don't need your fucking clothes. The poor people don't need clothes. I have seen a lot of poverty and a lot of the traveling that I've done. They don't need clothes. They need so much more than like our old sorry, like, you know what I mean? So yeah, anyways, that's kind of where that all came from. And yeah, it's been kind of that ever since. So I'll leave in the winter, I'll source, and I get my travel kick in and I get to source. But it's kind of moved more towards now for me where I'm just like, man, any single country I've ever visited, I can find these places, and it's very easy for me to find them now that I know what I'm looking for. I know what to ask for. But the problem lies with, why is this everywhere? Yeah. This is a massive issue. So, yeah.
Wild. So, where does the clothing come from here, though? Like, is it like overflow of Goodwill, overflow of Valley Village? That's where...
Exactly. So when I refer to a rag yard or a rag house, those are textile recycling plants that they compress everything, they sort everything and grade it. So it'll be like shorts, pants, shirts, t-shirts, underwear, whatever it is, they'll all put it, and they literally, that's why they're called pacas. So they put it in these packs and they ship it in a shipping container down south. But that's like stuff people say, oh, you're taking stuff away from the people. You know how much stuff people bring to the Value Village? And I've said this before and I say this all the time. The thrift store, as much as, yes, it does exist, and I'm not going to deny this existence of it being a place, for people to go to get, like, it's, again, and it's kind of like an awkward thing, I think, to talk about, and I don't even like to even kind of put it in that connotation, but it is for, lower income people, that's kind of what the idea of it was in mind. But realistically, what the thrift store is, it's just, when everyone does a spring clean, it's all the junk we don't want. Yeah. We're not doing that to be, altruistic to the people. No. We're doing that because the thrift store exists as a place in our society. It's a placeholder in our society that's been marketed to us as you're helping somebody else by donating. But half the time what we're donating is fucking garbage. Yeah. So it's a lot of overflow from the thrift store stuff that gets... I find stuff with a Value Village tag still on it. Goodwill tags. Really? Correct, yeah. Wow. Messed up. So it's overflow from that. It's any of those donation bin boxes that you see. Again, this is not free stuff. This is what people don't know is that secondhand, there's massive money in the people who own the textile recycling plants in a lot of these major cities, they make a lot of money. Yeah. They make a lot of money doing what they do. So, okay. Then obviously sustainability is like a big part of your platform. Would you suggest a better route of getting rid of your clothes? Because I literally today I donated
donated clothes to Value Village. I was cleaning out some of my closet. And like, obviously I didn't have the knowledge that for whatever they don't like, they'll just dump in another country. Are there like
but
any...
it's just this sheer amount of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like how much we consume. And I think it actually goes... It's like what I tell people when people ask me, I'm just like, go donate it to a local women's shelter. Like somewhere where it's directly helping people. But also it comes from the thing where I think all as a society and stuff, we kind of have to think, why are we consuming all this in the first place? Why am I doing bi-weekly closet cleanouts? The issue lies there. Like, I mean, of course, you know, when it does come to that point, where do we donate? I always just say, go to like a local shelter, and that's the best place to donate it. Or, you know, give it to a friend, re-gift it, re-home it. But again, a lot of the stuff that, like, you know, we're cleaning out of our closets, it's garbage that we're just like, nobody would even wear this. You feel bad even donating it.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? But I think it's about reframing our mentality. And I think it's like, this isn't just like a mere you or anybody. Like, this is as a problem as a society. Like, we live in a very consumer-based culture that promotes shit quality clothing that you're going to wear once, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to bring it to the Goodwill.
So, okay, I have a question. Because I agree with the shit quality. Like, obviously, like, Shein's a big problem. Not that I've never ever in my life bought something from there, because I wouldn't pretend that I haven't done something I've done.
Right.
But there's like tons of even much bigger North American brands that also create like nice clothing, but it's paper.
Exactly.
But
it's just good marketing.
Yeah. Are you like totally opposed to buying new from anywhere, or are you kind of like, if something's like as good of quality as what you usually find in the South, are you like, I can understand that because you'll have it for a long time? Or are you like, there's just, from what you've seen, there's so much, like, why would you buy new?
I think there's no such thing as being a perfect environmentalist. And there's no such thing as being a perfect person either. You know, I'm not going to sit here, and I'm not the sustainability police. Because I've also done things. But, you know, anytime I choose to consume, whether it's secondhand or if it's new, and anytime I've bought something new, it's something that I like. Again, it's reframing your approach to consumption. Like, I'm buying something with intention, where I'm just like, I'm actually going to wear this. The quality is there. And even if it is something, you know, it's not secondhand or vintage or what have you, I do it with the intention of being like, I'm investing in this piece. I'm not going to wear this once. I'm buying this to wear it, to have it, to keep it, to use it.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, I'll never sit here and be like, I only buy every single... No, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, there are times where I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I do just want something new. But and that's a lot of work to do, because it's been a lot of self-work for me too. Because like I said, when I got sober, a lot of what I was doing was just mindlessly consuming. I'm not going to sit here and say I've never bought in fast fashion. I've also ordered from Shein before. When I came home in the pandemic, I was in quarantine and I ordered from Shein. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I hadn't done it. That was before I started Clutter Porch. But again,
there's also a financial barrier to being able to buy quality.
Of course. But that's the thing. When you invest in quality, you pay for quality once and you have quality for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you're investing in something that was $5, you're buying $5 over and over and over again, and then $5 ends up adding up. You could have just bought the one thing right the first time and saved yourself and the planet a lot. And it's also, too, not even the quality, but we don't... And I think that so much of this, it's not taught to us. We weren't taught to know that these places existed.
Yeah.
We weren't also taught, you know, to think of who made the shirt for $5 and how much did they get paid. You know, when brands come out with like fucking feminism first, but a woman in Bangladesh made that for 20 cents.
Yeah.
That makes me sick. So it's just so much about, again, it's about like educating yourself. It's about really getting intentional with your purchases, because that's what it's had to be for me, where I'm like, you know, and I really do buy majority of my things secondhand, but there are times where I'm like, you know what? I do want something new. But when I buy something new, I make sure that it's something that I really do love and I'm really going to actually use.
Yeah.
The majority of the world doesn't live how you and I do.
Yeah.
You know, the majority of the world lives in a fucking 2x4 shack.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, you know, and to be able to see that, and, you know, it really changes your perspective on a lot of things. But it also, that's one thing that and I'm not even going to sit here and deny it, you know, like, I sell clothes for a living. Like, I want to look cute. I want to look good. But when you're traveling and you just got a backpack and you're just kind of going through life and you see how, again, the other majority of the world lives, you really start to realize all the clothes I have in my fucking closet in Canada, I forget about them. Yeah. Because all I'm wearing every single day when I'm traveling are my dusted up, beat up denim shorts and a tank top. And it really makes you think like what's important in life, and is it like, you know, and there is that pressure to follow the trend, to look good. And again, like I said, you know, to fit in. When I was younger, that was such a theme in my life, to not feel like they're like on the outside looking in. Yeah. And because of social media, we have been trained to think like that. We can't post the outfit again. But, you know.
No, I couldn't get that more. Like, as a content creator, I'm always like, fuck, I need another outfit. Which, like, I know is not the best way to think. And I'm sure as someone that, like, owns a successful clothing brand now, you probably feel that pressure too. Oh my God. In two ways. You probably feel pressure to look good and always have something new on, but then also never wear something new.
Okay, but you know what's really crazy? I still, realistically, of all the stuff I have in my house, the thing I'm most comfortable is in a beat up pair of old shorts and like a white beater tank top. Yeah.
So you've been doing Clutter Porch how many years?
So since like 2020, I'd say, coming up on 4 now. So like actually, so this summer will be my 3rd year in my brick and mortar space. And then I did, the year before that, I had a summer shipping. So 5, it's coming up on 5 summers now.
Nice. Okay. So, and like you've been slowly growing on socials. More and more people have been finding you. But last month, something happened.
I went fucking viral. You went viral. Listen, I gotta be honest with you. It's like, okay. The one thing that I need to compare this to in my entire life, since I was younger, again, like, you know, I think we've spent a lot of time on this whole conversation talking, where I've always been someone that stands out. I'm not someone who's just an average Joe. Like, I'm not just Joe, you know? But ever since I was younger, I was like, I know I got this personality. I know this is like, there's something inside of me that's not meant to be just a woman who owns a clothing store. Like, correct. I still have known this since I was a little kid. And I was always, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be this. But, you know, and I remember there was a time when I was on this fucking hike. My parents took us on a hike in Poland, and they were like, oh, it's going to be an hour. It turned out to be like 8. Okay. Okay. And I remember I was miserable. I fucking hate hiking. People don't know that about me. I fucking hate hiking. And so it was back in the day when your parents had those fucking handheld fucking cameras like this. And I'm pissed at this hike, okay? Because it was an hour. Now it's on the 8th hour, and I'm ready to commit murder. And my dad's filming, and then I'm just like, get that camera out of my face. And my mother goes, well, I thought you wanted to be famous. And I think the same experience, I'm not even gonna lie, is since going viral has been this, it's like a form of like, you kind of get what everybody always wants, but with the repercussion of like, now you almost don't have a choice. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying with the parallel drawn between, you know, when my mother was like, she was like, well, this is what you always wanted. Yeah. But then I'm stepping back from it
now. Which, that was so out of pocket. Like, you're on a family hike in Poland. You're not on CNN.
Yeah, like, seriously. Again, her and I don't talk. We ain't cool. But yeah, like, seriously, it was just, but that's what it's really felt like, where, you know, and it gives a lot of people a lot of access to you. I've been posting the same content for the last 4 years. Yeah. You know, and again, this has been, reselling clothing has now become a very controversial subject. You know, you're taking this away from that person. You're doing this. You're making prices higher, whatever, what have you, the discourse surrounding that. It's come with a lot of just unwarranted opinions, you know. From now, I think it's almost at like 59,000 people that I don't know, that, you know, and I didn't ask for that. Like, maybe, again, since I want to be famous and I want to be this, but it's not been actually what I had really wanted, in a sense, where I think, you know, and I think in the age of social media, like, everyone's like, oh, I hope to go viral and this will be so good for my business. I've heard so many people say that. Yeah. Once I went viral, it's been so good for my business. But I think as a person who has struggled with mental health, substance abuse issues, it's actually been the opposite. Like, I'm kind of now, like, I think I've always posted whatever I wanted on there. Yeah. I'm there smoking my cigarettes, I'm swearing, I'm doing whatever. And now I feel that a lot of people have come at me with whatever their uneducated opinions, and, you know, but it's really scary, actually.
Yeah, well, once you start to grow a following, the bigger it gets, the more people think, you have a responsibility to be whatever they think you should be, which, fuck that. You're your own person. Yeah. Keep being whoever you are.
And I've always been, you know?
And then B, you start to become less and less of an actual human in their mind, and you become more of like an idea.
Yeah.
And if you're not completely matched up to the idea that they have in their head, they feel like they can say whatever they want, and it doesn't matter if you're going to see it because you're not a human.
Yeah.
And like I've dealt with that in multiple ways, both on socials, but also in real life.
Right.
Because at some point it starts to translate.
Yeah.
But like people have got to know that you're just a girl with a phone.
Yeah.
Like everyone else.
Like everybody else, you know, and a girl with like real feelings. There's a person on the other side of the screen. But for me too, like I've always been the way that I am on the internet, the way that like how I am is how I've always been. And you know, since I was a kid.
Exactly the same as you were the day I met you when we were like 7.
Yeah, like, you know, it's the same thing. But I think that that's what's also made me a little bit in this aspect, you know, with so much of this exposure. And I'm so happy because a lot of people, the messages have been, the number one message I get is, oh my God, you're so authentic and you're so you.
Yeah.
And I never, ever not want to be anything else but myself. Yeah. And I've fought a lot of hard battles just internally of myself being like, this isn't who I am. Like, this isn't how I feel. But also like, you know, using my platform to be able to show people, because like I said earlier, this isn't taught. This information isn't given to us. Yeah. And I'm able to show people. And a lot of my other favorite messages to get are people like, dude, you made me rethink my consumption habits. You made me like, I didn't shop something new for a year. Amazing. Like that is, you know, I don't want to sell vintage forever. I don't want to have, like I said, I don't want to be somebody who's going to just have a vintage store. That's not what I was meant to do. Like I love, and also being able to give back to myself, because in a way, like I did take away from myself when I dropped out of school and I was going through a really hard time in my life. But now I'm like re-giving myself an education that I robbed of myself, if that makes sense. But again, it's not been easy, where my intention was never to, you know, to give all these people a platform for them to just hate on me, because it's something that they don't understand. Yeah. But yeah, and it's been, you know, like it's been heavy. Like I'm a really sensitive person. I think a lot of people wouldn't think at face value, be like, Jo does whatever she wants. She doesn't care. I care a lot. Yeah. And even if it's everyone saying, don't listen to them, it's just a stranger on the internet. Okay, but 50 people could tell me I'm amazing and what I'm doing is awesome. If one person tells me that I'm shit and they hate me, okay, it's done.
I know, I totally get it. I think, like, so for you guys that don't understand, like, she's literally gained, like, 40,000 followers in a month.
It's nuts.
Something crazy like that.
I started at 6,000, more than that actually. It's because I'm really bad at math.
It was terrible at math.
It was I had 6,000 of the OGs, the Clutter Porch OGs. Okay. And then when the reel blew, I think I'm at 59,000 followers now.
Yeah. And like that reel I checked today has over 2 million views.
Yeah.
And now all of her reels have like over 100,000 views.
It's insane.
What do you think it was about that reel that blew up? Because you've posted so many similar things.
So many. I don't know. And I mean, again, I wasn't sitting here at night praying to the algorithm on Instagram to be like, let's get this. But it was just like, I don't know, something just popped off and it really just ran with it. Yeah. And it's still like I haven't posted now because I've just needed to take time. Like and I'm going through a lot right now personally, aside from going viral, but that's also just added to it. I'm just like, I haven't even posted stuff and I'm getting hundreds of new followers a day doing nothing. And I'm like, you know, and then part of me too, it's been so much. Then I get messages, people being like, oh, and I do stories every day to everybody. Yeah. Like the weirdest thing, I'll talk about the weirdest thing. I'll have my eye patches on and I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm talking about whatever. I don't even know half the time what I'm talking about. Yeah. But then people are like, you know, I love when you do that because that brightens my day. Like, you know, when I can give so much of myself to someone else to make someone else feel better, that actually in turn does make me feel better. Yeah. But then it's like that added layer of judgment now. The original 6,000 people were there because they knew who I was. Yeah. And they stayed because this was just this kooky, random, weird girl on the internet who was doing really weird, random, cool stuff sometimes and whatever. But now there's all these new people that don't really know who I am as a person. And it's kind of scared me in a way where I'm like, I didn't ask for the feedback. Yeah. And there's been so many nice people that I've connected with, the new people of this cohort, of the viral cohort. Yeah. But Jesus Christ.
I know.
It's scary.
It's scary.
Like, and now I'm kind of, I think for the first time in a long time, I think I'm a little bit afraid of being myself. Because a thing about me too, and I think you've known this, like, people don't feel lukewarm about me. With Joe, there's no gray area.
Yeah, you just either like super appreciate you for the way you are, or you don't vibe.
At all.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Yeah.
So that's been something that, again, like I don't like that feeling, because what I've always really wanted to do to feel like true happiness within myself is just be who I am, no matter what.
I feel like if people are commenting mean things to you, it's because they're so uncomfortable with how comfortable you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like, also, they might say something mean, but are they still fucking following you and still watching everything you do? Yeah, they're obsessed with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Like turning a hater into a fan. Like a hater is just a confused fan.
Yeah.
Straight up. Straight up.
It's true.
Or like it goes to show too, you know, where like my intention in going through life, like I don't go through life wanting to cause people harm or make somebody else feel bad.
No.
Like what I get, like as shit as I can feel, if I can make someone laugh and be silly, that makes me feel better. Even if I feel like really I'm not doing well, if I can make someone else feel better, that's what brings me joy. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, and then it's just like, but then up against all this like perceived judgment, and even if it is, it's just like, who cares? Like I think about it all the time, like these big massive celebrities, how many hate comments and DMs and stuff they must get.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, again, because it is so, I think it's like a form of PTSD. I wasn't expecting this. It came on so fast. I don't know how to adjust to this because it's just been so new. And I think over time that's something maybe I'll get used to, but again, I don't know how someone could go out of their way. But it feels so impersonal, and the internet has allowed people to become impersonal.
Yeah. And
like we said earlier, you know, when you said it's just like people don't see you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's been kind of like a lot to get used to. And I'm still in that. I'm figuring it out.
I know. And it'll just keep growing.
Yeah.
It will.
But like that's
which like is stressful, but it'll be a really good thing when you figure out what you want to do with it. Yeah.
And that's, again, what I was just about to say now too. And I've been very candid about this. I don't want to sell vintage forever. It's not something that, you know, I love the aspect of my job where I get to educate people and say, hey, see this, look at this.
Yeah.
Like this is a reality. And if this can even make you do one small change, that to me is I've done my job. I don't need to sell another smelly old t-shirt that I washed and took the time to get the stain out and all these things. Yeah. That's not to me like the ultimate purpose, I feel, in a lot of ways, that I know that I'm here to do, which is, like to educate people. Yeah. So we've talked about this a little bit, but like your dream would be to have a camera follow you around when you go on the sourcing trips. Like 100%. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry. Also, it's like not even, it would be just like entertainment. Like I think anybody is just like, what is Joe doing? Like I think it would be, aside from, you know, the mountains and the piles of clothing, I think it could just be like a really fun show where I'm just doing kind of weird, wild shit. Like I told you before I got here, I literally was robbed at gunpoint yesterday morning.
She was.
I was.
Which, like, we're laughing about out of being completely uncomfortable, but
I'm still not processed.
This poor girl, she was just in Guatemala on a sourcing trip.
Yeah, going to the airport, I was robbed at gunpoint. It's a whole thing, yeah. But, you know, I mean, maybe the Netflix crew...
Well, they could have protected you.
Yeah, they could have. Where are you, Netflix? But yeah, I think it would make for a cool concept. Like I think my whole vision for it has always been, you know, like Anthony Bourdain, whatever, Parts Unseen or whatever it's called, is just, to go show people this. And it's not to, you know, pick up however many pieces of clothing I get from there. It's just to be like, hey, you know, I just want to travel the world and do whatever the fuck I want. Yeah. That's literally what I want to do. I want to go see cool shit. I want to do cool shit. I want to educate people at the same time. And I just want to live my life. Like, I don't know what else to say other than that's what's going to happen, though. But I'm so delusional.
You know that doing that, though, will bring more opinion.
100%.
Yeah.
So now I just have to spend that time in a lot of therapy. Yeah. Dealing with the fact that I did get robbed.
All the money you make will go to therapy.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
You know what? Worth it. But yeah, that's kind of what I've just envisioned for my life. That's really what I would feel is that I know that it's going to happen. Like I've already manifested it. It's out there. It's going to happen.
I think it would be amazing. Like I've learned so much just watching your reels. If you don't follow Joe, it's at Clutter Porch. I'm going to tag it in like the reels and stuff I post, but, she posts tons of videos of just like complete shock value of things she sees when she goes on trips to source clothing. I think a show out of that would teach people a lot.
Absolutely. It's, again, something that we haven't been taught and we need to show people. And it's, and it has to be shock value.
Yeah. It makes me so uncomfortable, like in a good way.
Yeah. But it's
like, even the sweater I'm wearing, like, I'm like,
who made that? Where will that go?
Yeah.
Where will it end up when I'm done?
I know. And
I know.
It's just everything we buy has a cost to someone else in another country that's not positive.
Yeah. And it's also too, so much of it is that whole mentality that we've been trained as a society, it's like stuff is being made for cheap to just, we've been trained as a society to expect a deal in the sense that like, it's a sale time, it's whatever, Black Friday, this. But again, there is a cost to something. And a lot of the stuff that we are producing, it's like these companies that, the billionaire who owns Boohoo or whatever bought a $50 million mansion in Beverly Hills, but at the cost of so many other people to get him there. And, but we're so mindless about it because, and again, I think there's so many factors at play. I think social media has a lot to do with it. Actually, probably the most to do with it. Yeah. But again, it's just consumerism. And like, I took a history class, actually. It was in university, one of the classes. And it was just about, after the World War, when it just became like the throwaway culture. That's essentially what it was when, like housewives and stuff, it was in like the 60s where they like the TV dinners and they didn't want to make a mess. So everything was just made to throw away. Yeah. That kind of concept where, that's where that started, where instead of, still stuff from that time is good. But again, that's where it kind of started shifting for us, where it was just like the volume got turned up on the consumerism and throwaway culture became kind of, slowly started to where we are now. I think the pandemic didn't help either. Having access to the internet online to just be on your phone and say, oh my God, click buy. I'm not even thinking about it. Oh, and they have free shipping. Oh, and then they have this deal today. Oh, and, but yeah, it's a lot to swallow. Even for me, like, I'm never going to be desensitized by what I see. Like, for what I do for work, I don't think that there's ever a moment where, I go into these environments and I'm like, damn, dude, that's messed up. Yeah. So.
Question. So, All Good started as a casual apparel brand. Really, I had a hard time finding apparel that wasn't like, I'm fucking gay, like on the sweater, like I wanted something that was cute and made other people in the community feel seen, but minimalistically,
not in your fucking face. Yeah.
And so I had no idea what I was doing. I literally just like found this lady who was like, you can just use Gildan sweaters and embroider them. That's all I knew. Right. And now we've transitioned to the focus being our podcast, but I do still do a little bit of apparel because that message is important to me. Right. But I've put a pause a little bit because I'm like, I don't feel very comfortable with the apparel that I was getting. Yeah. I would love for things to be of high quality and like from my brain. Like I want to see something and make it. Yeah. What would your advice be for, and like I know a lot of people that follow me also have either like small brands or they want to create. What would your advice be for someone that wants to start something?
Well, I think you kind of said it too, right? Like, you want this to be something from your brain. And I don't think I would never feel the best, like had I sold something that I wasn't like 100% completely sure of. But I mean, that also develops as the idea develops. We all start somewhere and you start with what you know. I want to have an apparel brand. Okay, I can get Gildan. Sick. I'll print on it. My people will love it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's awesome that it's just like, hey, I need to kind of take a step back. And I think the biggest part of it is really just taking your time to find the right supplier, find out where the things are being sourced. You can get, now clothing is getting manufactured at lightning speed, but there's so many different options. You can go with something that's, for example, made in Canada, like made not overseas. You can also go find things that you can get wholesale, secondhand blanks. Really? Yeah.
That's cool.
But the thing is with that, it's not going to be
the same
every time. But there is options. And I think it's just being intentional and mindful with how you're doing it. That's where the whole thing starts. It's like, to be like, hey, there is another way to do this, and I want this to be of good quality and of lasting quality.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be like, for me, the worst thing in the world is like, you know, if I've ever sold something and someone comes back and be like, oh, it ripped or it broke or whatever. Like, that doesn't make me feel good. That's like, you know, I want to put my name on something and put, you know, what I'm doing and putting out to the public and the people who are supporting me, and like literally putting food in my mouth, like to be able to eat, to travel, to do all the things. I want to say and stand behind every single thing that I sell and say that I love this piece and this is of XYZ quality.
So that's where I'm going. So my plan right now is I'm trying to put a lot of effort into finding either locally made or like high quality, sustainably made, whether it's recycled fabrics, whatever it is. I want to elevate it, and I want it to be something I feel good about selling, and I don't feel guilty in the sense that, like, I don't know where this was made. I don't know where it's going to end up. I don't know how long someone's going to have it.
Yeah.
And because it is a genuine message, I think if it was good quality, someone would keep it forever.
Absolutely.
Because sexuality and your identity is so close to home.
Absolutely.
With that said, because I'm going to start selling higher quality,
the price is
going to go up. Which I'm fine with.
Yeah. But people are not.
But people are not.
Yeah.
And I know that selling secondhand, you've struggled with people.
But
so, like, I just want to know, like, how you handle it, and also if you have any funny stories about your pricing.
I mean, you know, we touched on that before, and I think it comes with the intention of when you're going to buy something and you're investing your hard-earned money. If I'm investing my hard-earned money, I know that something is of good quality. I know that I'm going to wear it. I have no problem wearing it. And I also do it. It's like kind of like a price per wear. Yeah, sure, I spent more money on it, but every time I wear it, the price goes down.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Girl math.
Literally girl math. But I like... That's also too, it's training customers, it's training buyers, it's training people to stop expecting shirts for $5.
Yeah.
Because shirts for $5 are never going to be ethical. I don't care who you are, what you say, stop talking. But the point being is, you know, introducing to your audience, and, you know, you have a big following, you have the influence to like tell people the reason that it costs this much is because it is ethical. Yeah. It's not because I'm just marking it up and I'm taking the extra money. Yeah. No, it costs more to make an ethical piece of clothing, but for good reason. Yeah. Like, we can support a message, like, you know, for the whole concept of the brand. Yeah, the message is amazing. But behind the mess, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it like almost like erases some of the genuinity. Absolutely. Is that a word?
I don't know if it is.
Might have made up a word, but like
it is now.
It kind of like, I don't know. It's like fake nice people.
Exactly.
Like, you are doing a good thing. Here, I'm like shitting on myself right now.
No, but like, I think it's great because you've realized this, and I hope it's been like in part through me that I've just been like, you know, like, and I think so much of it, you know, over time, we are capable of making great change. It doesn't happen overnight, but, you know, being more conscious with all of our choices. And again, pricing is such a tricky thing because, you know, life is expensive to live. Yeah. Like, we were talking about this earlier before we started the podcast, but, you know, I live at home with my dad and I travel in countries in Central and South America because how am I supposed to make money and live a real life? Sure, probably if I had a store for 12 months of the year, but, you know, life is expensive, and people... You know, when people are supporting you and when they're shopping from you, that goes a long way, you know, for someone to support you in that way. And so it's not just a like they're seriously supporting your entire vision, your baby, your brand. And I think in terms of pricing, it can be difficult, and you don't want to be not price inclusive of things, but you also have to be, you know, fair to the values that you want to support and stand behind. But yeah, pricing is always a weird thing, you know, and where my shop is...
I'm sure you have stories because Jo has a shop. For those of you that are listening that don't live in Ontario, her shop is in the Hamptons of Ontario. Literally. It's called Muskoka. Tons of celebrities have cottages here, and so everyone there has money. Yeah. The problem with people that have money, except you,
like, so on theme with my life, like always on the outside looking in. Okay.
But the problem with people that have money, they don't want to spend their fucking money. They're offended when they have to spend their money.
Yeah. Which is honestly so wild to me because, and again, like, I'm so the type of person that it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account. It doesn't matter who the fuck you are. If you are rude to me, I don't give a fuck who you are. Yeah. I will tell you to your face to get the fuck out of my store. Like, I've had women come in who roll up in a fucking brand new Benz with the Louis bag and be like, oh, how about you give me $5 off? I said, how about fucking no, babe?
No way.
No, oh my God. But you know what?
People are price haggling you?
All the fucking time.
No.
But the stores, by the way, in my area, like my neighboring stores sell a cardigan for $850. That's like,
oh my God.
and they're coming in being like, oh, this $45 shirt's too much. For whom? Karen, for whom? It's just so rude, like beyond, and it's just so classless. And I look at this woman who, like, you know, wants to put out this certain image, and I'm just like, and I don't want to be judgmental, but has this woman ever worked a day in her life? Probably fucking not. I said, how about you ask Gary for a better allowance and come back to me with a better offer, full price? You know, like, please. But it's just, yeah, that's what's been really hard for me to deal with too, where I feel like in that environment, it's a lot of these really wealthy people, and they look down on me in a way because I am who I am. I'm outside my store. Inside my store, I'm probably having a cigarette outside and talking to all the other people that are out. I'm just doing me. Mm-hmm. They look down on me in a way, but they still want what I have. Yeah. Which is really fucked up. And I'm always very transparent. People say, well, how much is your rent? I have a seasonal business, but I pay a full year's price. Wow. My rent every single month for a store to really, there's 10 weeks of the summer to make money that are really, really the busy good weeks up there. I pay $35,000 a summer. So that's $6,000 a month from May till October. And I'm closed in October, and I still pay $6,000 for October. It's a wash. What am I even doing? How am I even making money? Don't ask me, because I'm not. Like, I'm literally not. But, you know.
But you're doing a good thing.
I'm trying. You know, and also in an area that is, again, that just a lot of the mentality up there is, and that attitude, you know, and it's trying to make something in a town, in Port Carling specifically, where, you know, like, I'm just a kid from the wrong side of the tracks. But at the same time, a lot of people in town really fuck with Clutter Porch, and those are the people that I want. I don't want some old ass Karen in there haggling me for $45. I'm like, her life probably sucks. Like, her life, as much as on the outside looking in, you know, and I'm also trying to work on that too. Like, a big thing for me has to this year, and I'm really trying to do this, is emotional regulation. I can't be going in my business telling people to fuck off, because I do. Because I just do. Yeah. And, you know, as I'm growing older, I'm like, okay, maybe that wasn't so professional. But again, if you disrespect me, like, you started, I'm going to finish it.
I would love for you to have you should have a reality series that follows you around when you're traveling, but then also
in the store.
In the store when you come
like
home.
A dash cam at the store of, like, a Karen. Like, I will go crazy on a bitch. I literally...
You were made for TV.
Like, where are the cameras? Listen, Linda, okay? But the store that was in my space now, she was there for like 20 years or some shit, called Simply Chic. And it was
I know that store.
Yeah, the bougiest store, right?
Yeah.
So she was in there for sewing. She had a crazy client list, like, huge customer base. I came in there. She ended up just closing her business. She had, like, I don't know what happened in her personal life, but she was done. Mm-hmm. And then all her clients, which were all these old-ass Muskoka Karens, start popping into Clutter Porch. Where's Carol? Because she owns Simply Chic. And I'm just like, Carol is gone. And also, if you were on a first-name basis with Carol, you'd know she's gone. But the women who were coming in there were beyond me. I had a store full of people. And this woman came in, was, like, at the doorway of my shop. And my shop is small. It's, like, 300 square feet less. It's tiny. And to be paying $6,000 a month, do not haggle me for $45 on a t-shirt. My rent is $6,000 a month. Anyways, so there was a woman that came into the door. She, like, and I say, what up, good morning, how are you, to every single person. Like, I want people to feel good in my store. Yeah. But like I said, if you start with me, I'm going to finish it. This fucking Karen comes in, peeks her head in like this. Well, where's Carol? And I said to her, I saw her, like, outside. I said, hey, good morning. And then she goes, well, where's Carol? And then I go, I said good morning. And then everybody, and it was a store full of people. I'll do this in front of people. I don't care. Like, do not come into my business and act like this. Like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You haven't been taught. You got all the money in the world and you're still a fucking dick. That's literally classless. But yeah, and then I remember the music was playing, but it suddenly became so quiet in that store. Everyone's like looking at me like, did she actually just say that to that lady? And then she's like, well, she starts getting choked because I said good morning to her, and she just right off the bat, where's Carol? And then I go into it with her, and then I was just like, okay, have a nice life. Like, she was like, you shouldn't speak to people like that. I was like, you shouldn't speak to people like that. And I reiterated the point. If you know Carol so well, you would know she ain't here. So leave.
Did anyone else in the store say anything to you or laugh?
Oh my God, after they left, it was a round of applause. Everyone was hyped. They're like, yeah, fuck that bitch. I'm like, fuck that bitch. Which is also, too, which has been so awesome because I had a lot of issues this summer with the township in regards to my signs. And I ended up coming
What was wrong with your signs?
They were claimed, oh my God, there was a whole, again, it's Port Carling. So they had a problem. A Karen complained there was too much signage in Port Carling. So they went to the township to remove the signs.
Oh my God, fuck off.
Literally fuck off. And again, I pay premium rent. My store is in the back. It's not even on the main strip. You need a sign to get to my store. Anyways, this bylaw officer, Lady Kim, came. Anyways, Kim, it didn't end well for Kim. I ended up dragging Kim all over the internet. And everyone was, and I had this whole thing. It was a hashtag pray for Kim. And all the followers were like on my side.
I remember you posting something like that, actually.
Yeah. So, and I had a bikini and I had the sign walking down the thing, marching. Yes. Yeah, and I was like, do not fuck with the crazy bitch who has nothing to lose. That is me. That is literally me. Like, you started it, I'm going to finish it. But then at the same time, too, it's such a difference, which is interesting that we're all saying all this, because in person, if someone does that to me, I will come for you. But now with all the viralness, who am I coming for? Some fucking bot who's in, like, Saskatoon right now typing a hate message? Yeah. Like, you know, and I think it gives people that shield of, you know, it's not, nobody would say these things to somebody in real life unless they're really ballsy. And everybody in Port Carling too, I think, or everyone in my life really, like, on a personal basis, they would know, don't fuck with Joe. Yeah. Like, I'm really a genuinely so the nicest person, but if you cross me like that and, like, disrespect me like that, like, no, you're not, like, I think I'm just a little scrappy.
You're so scrappy.
A little bit.
I like scrappy.
You know, like, you have to stand up for yourself. And I think that's one thing that my dad taught me, you know, like, you have to have respect for yourself in the sense of, like, you know, and again, kind of going back to pricing, someone's going to buy it. Mm-hmm. If that person's complaining about the price, they're not your customer. Right. If someone's coming into your store trying to negotiate you, they're not your customer, because a real customer appreciates the work you do. They respect you and they will buy it at full price. And it's just watering yourself down to give a discount. I think I talk about that a lot, where I'm just like, if you don't want to buy it, that's fine. Yeah. Somebody else will. Yeah. So never be afraid to, you know, change the structure of how things are. And especially if you're doing it for a better reason, everyone's going to complain. Everyone has something to complain about all the time, every single day. Even me. I complain all the time. But, you know, like, it's for the reason behind the entire message. Yeah. So I think it's, you know, I'm so happy for you. I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm here for this. Also, I have a really good guy who's got vintage blanks.
Really?
We'll talk about this after.
Okay, we are going to wrap up. Okay. It's been great.
I had literally so much fun.
It's so fun. I know. I love doing this. What is your next trip before we go?
So, I'm going out to Vancouver for a couple days. I actually can't say anything about this yet because it's a project that I'm working on, but I haven't announced anything. But I'm going to Vancouver. So then after Vancouver, I was thinking about going to LA for a bit, but I think I might change that plan. But after that, I'm going to Colombia with my dad. Nice. And then after that, I'm going to Chile, to the clothing desert, which will be insane. I think it will be crazy nuts. So even more like, what's that? I don't want to say clickbait, but like, you guys are about to see.
Yeah, shock value.
What's going on.
Make sure you're following along because the shit she'll show you is wild.
And also just me being crazy.
But thank you so much for listening, and come back, goodies.